2.5 millennia ago, China was a land divided. Warlords clashed, kingdoms rose and fell, and the fate of millions hung on the wisdom of generals. In this chaos, one man wrote a book that would outlive dynasties, armies, and empires. His name was Sun Tzu. His book was The Art of War. But make no mistake, this is not a book about violence. It is a book about wisdom. It is about the psychology of conflict, the discipline of preparation, and the mastery of self. Sun Tzu believed that the greatest battles are not fought with swords, but with minds. He taught that wars are won before they are fought. That deception, patience, and clarity matter more than brute force. That the general who understands himself and his enemy, who masters discipline and timing, who uses deception wisely, that general cannot be defeated. Think about this. The art of war has been studied not only by soldiers, but by politicians, CEOs, athletes, and creators. Why? Because conflict is everywhere. In business, in competition, in personal struggles. Sun Tzu's wisdom applies to every battlefield, whether it is a war, a negotiation, or the fight to master your own habits. Imagine a battlefield in ancient China. Dust rises as armies march. The clash of swords is near. But Sun Tzu reminds us, the outcome was decided long before the first arrow flew. It was decided in the planning, in the discipline, in the knowledge of terrain, in the understanding of the enemy's mind. Now imagine a modern battlefield, the boardroom of a Fortune 500 company. Competitors fight for market share. Strategies clash. Brands rise and fall. Here too Sun Tzu's wisdom applies. The company that knows itself, knows its rivals, and strikes with discipline and timing, that company wins without fighting. This is why the art of war endures. It is not a relic of the past. It is a living philosophy. It teaches us how to face conflict, how to outthink opponents, and how to master ourselves. In this cinematic journey, we will explore 4 timeless lessons. Know yourself and your enemy, the foundation of victory. Win without fighting, the supreme art of strategy. The power of discipline and timing, the heartbeat of success. Deception as the heart of strategy, the hidden weapon of the wise. Each lesson will be brought to life with ancient stories, modern parallels, and cinematic imagery. So you don't just hear Sun Tzu's wisdom, you feel it. Because the art of war is not just about battles. It is about life. It is about the wars we fight every day. Against rivals, against obstacles, against ourselves. And Sun Tzu's wisdom reminds us, the greatest victory is mastery of the mind. Sun Tzu begins with the most important lesson. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This principle is the foundation of all strategy. Victory is not about luck. It is about knowledge. To know yourself is to understand your strengths and weaknesses. To know your enemy is to understand their motives, their fears, their patterns. 1. The ancient battlefield. Imagine 2 armies facing each other across a valley. One general knows the terrain, the weather, the morale of his soldiers. The other marches blindly, confident in numbers but ignorant of the land. When the storm comes, when the river floods, when the soldiers panic, the ignorant general loses before the battle begins. Sun Tzu reminds us, battles are lost not because of weakness, but because of blindness. 2. The mirror of self. Knowing yourself is harder than knowing your enemy. It requires honesty. It requires humility. It requires the courage to admit weakness. Sun Tzu teaches that arrogance blinds a general. Pride destroys armies. The wise leader studies himself as carefully as he studies his enemy. In life, this means understanding your habits, your fears, your blind spots. A student who knows he procrastinates can prepare. A leader who knows he is impulsive can slow down. A creator who knows his strengths can amplify them. 3 modern parallels. Think of business competition. A company that knows its market, its customers, and its rivals can adapt. A company that ignores reality collapses. Blockbuster ignored Netflix. Kodak ignored digital cameras. They did not know themselves, and they did not know their enemy. Think of sports. A boxer studies his opponent's rhythm. his weaknesses, his habits. He also studies his own stamina, his own limits. Victory comes not from brute force, but from knowledge. 4. The psychology of conflict. Sun Tzu teaches that the mind is the true battlefield. If you know your enemy's fears, you can control him. If you know your own fears, you can master yourself. He reminds us, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. This is not just about war. It is about life. If you ignore your weaknesses, if you ignore your challenges, you will fail again and again. But if you study yourself, if you study your rivals, you will find strength. 5. The cinematic lesson. Picture Sun Tzu standing on a hill, watching armies below. He does not see soldiers. He sees patterns. He sees strengths and weaknesses. He sees fear and courage. He sees the truth. That is the art of knowing yourself and your enemy. It is the art of clarity. It is the art of wisdom. It is the art of victory. Sun Tzu's most famous lesson is this. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This principle is the heart of the art of war. The greatest victory is not in destruction, but in persuasion, deception, and strategy. The wise general avoids unnecessary battles. He wins by positioning, by alliances, by breaking the enemy's will before swords are drawn. 1. The ancient wisdom. In the Warring States period, armies clashed endlessly. But Sun Tzu taught that the greatest generals were those who won without spilling blood. They conquered cities by cutting off supplies, by sowing doubt among leaders, by convincing enemies to surrender before the battle began. He reminds us, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. 2. The power of positioning. Sun Tzu believed that the battlefield is shaped long before the armies arrive. If you position yourself wisely, the enemy cannot attack. If you prepare alliances, the enemy cannot resist. If you weaken his will, the enemy cannot fight. This is the art of subtlety, the art of patience, the art of making the enemy surrender without bloodshed. 3. Modern parallels. In business, this lesson is clear. The greatest companies win not by destroying rivals, but by outthinking them. Apple did not fight Microsoft with lawsuits. It won with design, branding, and innovation. Netflix did not fight Blockbuster in court. It won by changing the game, by making Blockbuster irrelevant. In sports, the greatest athletes win before the match begins. They prepare so thoroughly, they train so relentlessly, that their opponents lose in the mind before they step into the arena. In life, the greatest victories are those where conflict is avoided. A wise negotiator wins by persuasion. A wise leader wins by inspiration. A wise thinker wins by clarity. 4. The psychology of victory. Sun Tzu teaches that the mind is the true battlefield. If you can break the enemy's will, you have already won. If you can inspire your own will, you cannot be defeated. He reminds us, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible, and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. This is not just about war. It is about life. If you prepare, if you position yourself wisely, if you inspire yourself and others, you can win without fighting. 5. The cinematic lesson. Picture Sun Tzu standing on a hill, armies below. He does not order an attack. He waits. He positions. He inspires. And the enemy, seeing his strength, seeing his wisdom, lays down their weapons. That is the supreme art of war. That is the art of winning without fighting. Sun Tzu teaches that discipline and timing are the heartbeat of victory. He reminds us, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. 1. Discipline, the foundation of strength. Discipline means preparation. It means training soldiers until their movements are instinctive. It means organizing supplies, studying terrain, and planning for every possibility. A disciplined army does not panic when storms come. A disciplined leader does not break when enemies surprise him. Sun Tzu believed that discipline is freedom. Without discipline, armies collapse. Without discipline, leaders fail. But with discipline, chaos becomes order, and weakness becomes strength. Think of a modern athlete. His discipline is not just in the game. It is in the hours of training, the diet, the sleep, the sacrifice. Victory is built on discipline long before the competition begins. 2. Timing, the art of patience. Timing means patience. It means waiting for the right moment to strike. Sun Tzu teaches that the wise general does not rush into battle. He waits until the enemy is weak, until the terrain favors him, until the opportunity is perfect. He reminds us, he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. In ancient battles, generals waited weeks, even months, for the right moment. They struck when the enemy was tired, when supplies were low, when morale was broken. In modern life, timing is just as powerful. Investors wait for markets to panic before buying. Leaders wait for the right moment to speak. Creators wait for the right trend to launch. Timing transforms effort into victory. 3. Discipline plus timing equals power. Discipline without timing is wasted effort. Timing without discipline is wasted opportunity. Together they create power. Sun Tzu teaches that the general who masters discipline and timing cannot be defeated. He prepares his army so thoroughly that they cannot fail. He waits so patiently that he cannot miss the moment. Think of Warren Buffett. His wealth was not built overnight. It was built with discipline, studying companies, saving capital, and timing, investing when others panicked, waiting when others rushed. Think of military history. The D-Day invasion succeeded not just because of courage, but because of discipline in preparation and timing in execution. 4. The psychology of discipline and timing. Sun Tzu reminds us that discipline and timing are not just military tools. They are psychological weapons. A disciplined mind does not panic. Patient mind does not rush. Together they create resilience. He teaches that the greatest leaders are those who master themselves. They discipline their habits. They time their actions. They wait for the perfect moment, and then they strike with precision. 5. The cinematic lesson. Picture Sun Tzu standing on a hill, armies below. He does not rush. He waits. He watches. He prepares. And when the sun rises, when the enemy is weak, when the moment is perfect, he raises his hand, and the armies move like thunder. That is the power of discipline and timing. That is the art of victory. Sun Tzu declares, all warfare is based on deception. This is perhaps his most controversial lesson, yet it is the one that has echoed across centuries. The wise general misleads his enemy. He pretends weakness when he is strong. He pretends strength when he is weak. He hides his true intentions until the moment of victory. 1. Ancient deceptions. In the Warring States period, deception was the difference between survival and destruction. Generals staged fake retreats to lure enemies into traps. They lit extra campfires to make their armies look larger. They spread false rumors to break morale. Sun Tzu believed that the battlefield was not just physical, it was psychological. If you could control what your enemy believed, you could control the outcome of the war. 2. The art of illusion. Deception is not dishonesty. It is strategy. It is the art of shaping perception. Sun Tzu teaches that the enemy loses the moment he believes your illusion. He reminds us, appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. This is the art of surprise. The art of misdirection. The art of making the enemy fight shadows while you strike reality. 3. Modern parallels. In business, deception means innovation. Netflix appeared small, weak, and harmless. Blockbuster ignored them. By the time they realized, Netflix had already won. In sports, deception means strategy. Basketball player fakes left, then drives right. A boxer feints high, then strikes low. Victory comes not from brute force, but from illusion. In life, deception means subtlety. A negotiator pretends indifference to gain leverage. A leader hides his true plan until the right moment. A creator surprises his audience with twists they never expected. 4. The psychology of deception. Sun Tzu teaches that deception is not about lying. It is about control. It is about shaping perception. It is about making the enemy believe what you want him to believe. He reminds us, hold out baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder and crush him. This is not just about war. It is about life. If you can control perception, you can control reality. If you can shape belief, you can shape destiny. 5. The cinematic lesson. Picture Sun Tzu standing in the mist, armies hidden behind hills. The enemy sees weakness. He charges. But the hills erupt with soldiers, the traps spring, and victory is won. That is the art of deception. That is the heart of strategy. That is the wisdom of Sun Tzu.